Good afternoon, and I'm looking outside and it's absolutely pouring, and I'm thankful for that. And the thought crosses my mind that in times like this, whether these are tears from heaven for the people of God, for us to look to Him for guidance in these troubled times. We are facing a dilemma, a crisis of a kind we never thought we would. We are either going to take a knee and bow to the province who wants us to worship them and their policies, or we are going to stand up for freedom and for righteousness. I maintain there actually is no choice. I maintain that there is a line that we must now draw, a line that we will tell our province, this you may not cross, you may not proceed beyond this line. This is a do not cross the line. It isn't for the fact that we are being obstinate or difficult. It isn't that we're being pig-headed. It isn't that we've done our research. In fact, the fact is we have done our research. And many of us have come to a decision for our healthcare choices. And those healthcare choices are ours to make. Nobody takes that from us. But the province is upset. And Winkler is a hot spot. And they keep coming here and keep coming here. And it doesn't seem to sink into their heads that we are not guided by government. We are free people exercising our faith, doing our due diligence, and having made decisions that we will not back down from. This Sunday, we want to host a rally, weather permitting. I hope we have good weather for it. But this is only going to be one of many rallies. I am now home full time. I have essentially retired from trucking, and I'm committed to working for the people of Winkler and for other people who are going to look to this city as a shining city on the prairies. I think the dark days are upon us, and our faith is being stretched to the limit. Many of us are afraid, and I maintain we have nothing to be fearful of. For those of us who believe, we have God on our side. And as one guy said, what does that mean? God plus one is a majority. It means that with one person and God, there's no telling what can happen. We're in the middle of a federal election. The pressing matters, the things that we're all concerned about, are not officially on the ballot. And our incumbent, Candace Bergen, is not talking about them. She's talking about things that are secondary to our freedom, our right to choose our health care, our right to live freely, to not have to wear masks, and to not be locked down. We must stand up for that. This is a time when we, as a city, will need to come together. And it isn't a vaxxed versus unvaxxed. I want to stop that thing. That is what the government has perpetrated on us. We were, before the COVID pandemic, a much more united city. We never held each other's healthcare choices against the other. That would have been ridiculous. Even for those facing cancer, loved ones gave their loved ones the choice, because it is them who have to live with the consequences of our healthcare choices. We are no different today. Do not let the province divide us. Do not let the healthcare agencies divide us. We must stand together. And the common ground can be, if it isn't anything else, can be the fact that we are entirely against vaccine passports. Vaccine passports will cause each of us to have to show our papers, as you might do in an occupied country. But we are not an occupied country. We are a free country. And the Charter of Rights and Freedoms gives us that right to move about our province, our city, and even interprovincially. But although that has already been changing, and there are provinces that demand you must be vaccinated, what we plan to do here is very bold. It is a bold initiative. I will not tell you that it's easy. I will not even tell you that it has a 100% success rate. But what I will tell you is my heart and soul is fully committed to doing what is necessary for Winkler to regain the spirit it once had, to make it one of the greatest cities I've ever lived in. And I've lived in a few, but I consider Winkler my home. This is my home and native land. It will start small. This rally is one of many we hope to hold. And I am now full-time here to promote social justice and equality and to help us gain a voice, to find our feet, to put some steel in our spine and stop being passive. Stop being somebody who sits in the background. Stop assuming somebody else will do it. It is up to us to do it. We must stand together. Vaccinated and unvaccinated, we can stand together. There is no reason we have to be segregated except that someone tells you you have to be separated. You're not. You're no different from the other. We are all one people under God's dominion. And we want to stand together for the first time and end this segregation, which is tearing our community apart. We don't have a leader in this community that's willing to do that. Unfortunately, we get a lot of double talk from City Hall. We have someone who wants to make good with everybody. And as you know, there's a time when you simply have to stand on your conviction. We want that to start this Sunday, 7 p.m. on the south end of Winkler, Highway 32. If you proceed in that direction, you'll see cars pulled over. We're gathering in the side area to the highway. And I'm not hoping for 10 or 20. Please, don't let me down. Don't let yourself down. We want hundreds. We want 1,000 people to show up there. There are people that are here living in our community. They're counting on us to not allow a state to create itself into the countries that they fled from. We have 83 countries living in this city. These people have left their countries for good reason. Many of them for the politics that would oppress them. As free people, until they take our freedom away from us, we must demand it. It will not come waiting for it. It will not arrive at your doorstep. You won't suddenly be free because somebody changed their mind. It is imperative that the oppressed, which we are right now, must demand our freedom. Freedom does not come from the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. This has happened before. We are not the first people to be persecuted in this world. But for the first time in our city, in our province and country, we used to think, Ronald Reagan gave this speech at his inaugural address, 1981. He said, "There's a line you must draw beyond which the enemy may not advance. Because if we allow that to happen, there's nowhere left to go." We are one of the few countries that truly has freedom in all of its beauty and majesty, the freedom that God gave us. We should be so thankful to be living in a free country, but we have to protect it. Freedom is not cheap. It's not easy. The freedom that God ultimately gave us was in giving his son for us, that we could be redeemed to him, that we could, in some wonderful way, as sinful people, be part of the family of a holy and righteous God. And the fear of the Lord is truly the beginning of wisdom. And that fear causes us to wonder in amazement how we could belong to a holy God when we are an unholy people. Every one of us has fallen short. Every one of us. Scripture is clear on that. Look at yourself. I look at myself and I wonder how a God could love me, a sinful man. But he loves me, he loves you, and we need to love each other. This is about love. We will practice and we will oppose the government in peaceful, passive resistance. The same ideology that Martin Luther King Jr. gave his life for. And on December 1st, 1955, a very meek, mild, 40-something-year-old woman sat on a bus coming home from work. And she was asked to give up her seat. Rosa Parks was often asked, "Were you refusing to give up your seat because you were tired and you just needed to sit after a long day at work?" She said, "No, I was tired of it. I was fed up. And today is the day that we start to say no. We say no to lockdowns. We say no to mandatory mask wearing. We say no to mandatory vaccinations. We say no to vaccine passports. We say yes to choice. That is ours until they somehow take it away. But let it be with our last breath that we take it away. Let us not take a knee to this government. I take a knee to God. I join you in a humble, contrite spirit, which we need to come together and unite our voices. Many of you are sitting quietly, passively, waiting for somebody to do it. And you know the story of the Good Samaritan is about doing it. 2 people passed by that man on the road to Jericho. Each one of them had a reason why they wouldn't stop. Some feared for themselves. Some feared that maybe it was a setup, that they would get harmed. But one man, the Good Samaritan, as we now know him, stopped and said, if I don't help him, who will? What's going to happen to him? This movement, this Things That Matter thing that I started, that many of you are now joining me with, it's not about me. It's entirely not about me. I have nothing to gain from this, but we all have something to gain from it. Freedom. The opportunity to live our lives, to practice our faith, and not to be stupid. Come on. Who would ever say that? Practice your faith, but don't be stupid? It doesn't even fit. That's not the leadership we're looking for, folks. What we plan to do at this event is, for the first time, look at forming Winkler as a sanctuary city, where everybody can be free to practice their faith and exercise their healthcare choices as they seem fit. I cannot promise you that this will happen. I can promise you that we will try. I can promise you that if we get enough signatures on a petition to pass this ordinance, listing all the different things that we believe are right and proper to have in our city, that we can then march on City Hall and present this to City Council, which will be forced to put it on the agenda. But if we are stonewalled there, we will take action. And if we have to recall the entire council and the mayor, I pray that we don't, then we will look at that option. But we must have leadership that represents the people of Winkler. We have had for too long representation of government to people. We are the people they serve. And I am trying to meet with our Winkler Police Service to try to form an understanding with our Chief of Police that we will commit to being peaceful, passive resistance, that we will not take matters into our own hands. We will not behave like a group of thugs, uneducated, out of control people. We will be peaceful and passive in our resistance, but we will not back down. Not now. Too much at stake. Come Sunday, 7 p.m., south side of Winkler, Highway 32 South. As the guy says, you'll find us. And come and hear a message of hope. We have a few speakers that we want to give some time to. We want to pray about this and we want to move. But you have to come out. You can't sit anymore. It's too long you've been sitting. Keyboard warriors, put your keyboards aside. Moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas, it's all for you. This is not for just some of us. It's for all of us that we fire this up and make it bigger and louder than it's ever been. They cannot arrest us all. But for me, I'm prepared to go to jail. That's how much I feel about this. It's important. These are the things that matter. And I'm Carl Krebs, and I hope to see you 7 p.m. Sunday. Have a good day.